Hello everyone. Please ignore that and answer my question. Tonight's question, if you will. Which elimination suite present in TPOT 22 would be the nicest to stay? Oh well, that shouldn't be too difficult of a question. There's only give or take about 15 rooms to have a look at, with roughly 32 characters to discover. Lordy. Each room will be given a score out of 10, with 5 being the accommodation and 5 being the characters being treated as roommates. And let me preface that this doesn't necessarily have to do with how they're written in the show, but how well they'd be as roommates. Like, you could have a character that I actually really hate watching, but could be, decent roomies, and vice versa. So keep that in mind. The scores will range from 1 being I'd rather be thrown out by a fat egg like Fries than stay in this room, and 10, of course, being the best. Anyways, that's enough housekeeping. Let's just jump right in. I walk into our first guest room, and it's a sweet yet rather stodgy pie. On first impressions, it's not too bad. I mean, it's upside down, but I'm sure to get that sorted, I hope. Its strongest point is its room. It's seamless, can't go wrong. My main complaint about it is that perhaps it's a bit too boring. Like, I know pie isn't exactly the craziest fella around, but surely you could give her a gimmick other than dousing it in a rather admittedly nice colour blue. But nonetheless, I suppose it just swings and roundabouts. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 on the room. We're not doing any of this woke decimals, but if we are, it's a 3.5. It's good, but that's about it. Now as for pie itself, I mean, it's just like her room. It's good. The worst thing about it is that she might draw on about something, but that could be dealt with.
Pie, shut your pie hole!
Alright, 3 out of 5. Overall, this gives pie a nice 6 out of 10, which is actually 2 pie rounded to 1, just a significant figure. So the more you know, I suppose. Okay, that's 1 down, 14 to go. Foldy. I really hope I never have to speak about her again after spending 4 months in this clusterfuck, but turns out she isn't too popular and ended up being the worst or lowest ranking. That isn't the last story of my life. Anyways, the room had a real nice vibe about it. The lights, the free food sign just hanging around here, the Giagami book, everything about it just looks so cozy, it's perfect. But I kind of wish it was a bit more colourful, like maybe add some orange to it, get out the colour wheel. Heck, it's even my favourite colour, so that's a result. But other than that, I think I'd rather live here than pie. 4 out of 5. Now Foldy, I mean, this video exists, so I don't really need to mention it. Like, this doesn't really just go. It does briefly explain why it should be a good roommate to me. But there is one thing I am going to mention. And it's right how it's one of the montages where she's just spending time in a room. She can be seen banging her head, which means that she must be interested in some sort of hardcore heavy music. And as someone who's getting closer and closer to being a hardcore rock fan in particular, my favourite one right now is currently the Dead Kennedys. 5 out of 5. Wicked, a 9 out of 10. You just need to have a bit of orange if we can talk about that 10. Let's see how quickly we get to that 10 out of 10 room. Saw and Cloudy. Now, at this point in time, because of the dual elimination being introduced, we're going to need to modify the formula a bit. We're going to bump the character score to a 10, 5 for each character, and we're going to proportionate it to a 5 score. Any woke decimals will just be rounded up or down depending on how I feel. Alright? Good. So Clans at All Rooms is just rather cozy, honestly. I've bothered with the wallpaper quite a bit, but the plants are really funky and the portraits are a nice touch. The colours are probably my favourite so far. I really love the white and pink colour scheme here, and it's a real nice change of pace from blue, green, blue, green. Good stuff. But there's just something that feels missing here. I don't know, I think I'd give it a 4 though. For instance, Saw seems like a nice enough lass, feels like she'd be fun to be around. She's alright, 3 out of 5. Now Cloudy, I'm not going to have this blobby menace steal my items, nor am I going to have him brutally execute my other roommate whenever the door's locked just so he can collect her carcass. That said though, he's pretty funny outside of that, 2 out of 5. Alright, tie the characters, that's 5 divided by 10, you'd get 2.5. And I feel bad about ranking these characters, so I'll round it to a 3, which means I'll give this suite a nice and cozy 7 out of 10. My phone went off, I should recheck that. Naily and Remote. Now this is probably the one that you might be the most skeevy on, in my opinion. I don't really like the room. It's not bad per se, but it just looks so lame. There seems to be nothing really interesting about it aside from the colours, which is just fine. But it's just a room of boxes, a poster of a dartboard which is just insanely lame, and a shelf that looks like Remote. It's not uninhabitable, again, but if I have to sleep in it, I'll sleep in it. But it's just nothing. This is the worst room we have so far. It's a 2 out of 5. Don't even like the colour scheme that much. Alright, that phone notification turns out to be Discord. Damn. Now, as for the people, I mean, Ailey's a fun little fella. She's energetic, but never to a point of being grating, and that's all I can really go for. It's simple. 4 out of 5. Now, I'm tempted to give her a 0 for being a robot, which terrifies me, but I think I'll make an exception for her. I can imagine she's always just have a fun fact lying around, and hey, we can go for a night out where we can go to the mall, have some food, try some clothes, detonate a bomb and come back. All in a day's work, eh? So I'll give her a 4 out of 5 too. But on a second thought, her being so intelligent might make her so annoying when it comes to charades. I think I might have to dock it down to a 3. So we have about a 7 out of 10 of the characters, which should have to knock it down to a 3.5 out of 10. I could do a coin flip, honestly. Well, guess that sells it. They're getting a 5 out of 10. If you're angry, don't be mad. Big man, my klutzy hand. Eggy and Fries. This one is kind of hard to get a beat on because the room itself does seem quite nice to live in. I remember looking a lot worse as it came straight out of McDonald's 25 years after its design change, but the purplish yellow is pleasant to look at. But this just seems to be a more generic version of Cloudy's and Saw's room, so I'll just check it in a helpful 3 out of 5. With that said though, where it really tanks is the roomies. Because Fries, to put it nicely, really would suck as a roommate. Like, I know there's a whole living with Jack through like he remotely did in 24, but being realistically, you can expect to score higher than a 1 if your first instinct upon being in this room is trying to dig yourself straight down, even if you're a riot. And Eggy, whilst I think she's better, it's only really by contrast. But she wouldn't destroy the room per se, but I don't know, she doesn't seem to be a great person to share a room with. It's a 2 out of 5 from me, boss. What is the point in showing? And with Fries' extreme negative on a potentially wrecking the room and outweighing whatever positives Eggy has, I'm feeling a bit mean and giving him a 1 out of 5, culminating in a really low 4 out of 10. How disappointing. Lightning. Okay, so right off the bat, we have some good news and some bad news. The good news is, for the first time in a while, we could go back to the original formula because of one character, 1 rating. Because Lightning is the only representing character here. Unlike Nick himself, whilst you could be walking in eggshells because he's a whole-ass lightning bolt, 9 out of 10 he does be pretty chill. Unlike Fries, who's even when he seems to be a bit more in his calmer state, would just fuck up my room. The danger's still a bit high for Lightning though, but it's certainly a lot better. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. Oh, with that said though, oh my god, this room sucks. It is terrible. The shade of green is so garish in your face and it's just so ugly. I mean, I guess it sort of fits because, you know, lightning is quite garish. It's very bright. But it doesn't change the fact that it's an eyesore to look at. But alright, it might look ugly in the colours, but surely the rest of the room must be nice. But I can't really comment on it because there's nothing. It's just so dull. All there really is a bunch of dumb boxes and curtains with the most unique looking light bulb I've ever seen, to be fair. Like, come on, you could have done something better, like add a dynamo or something. But the worst offender is that there is no bed. Like, how do you expect me to get my 8 hours of sleep for, well, we don't need to get into that. Sleeping on a high full-like surface is not good. And this is not good at all. I'm going to give this a 1 out of 5, and I mean, you'll be getting a 4 out of 10. I'm hoping we start to find some good stuff soon, because I'm getting bombarded with pure disappointment at this point. Cake and Rocky. The room is certainly a huge step up from Lightning's. There's bedding for one, so I can actually sleep in. The colours do look rather snazzy, looking a bit vintage if anything, and I really like the look of the curtain. And there's even some nice little bits like the toys from BFB that I can't remember what they're called. So overall, yeah, massive improvement, doesn't really have many complaints. Did I mention I really like the colour design? 4 out of 5. Now the roommates are sort of 50-50. Cake is chilled and he seems like a fun guy and knows to lock in when time calls for it. He gets a 4 out of 5, it's easy. But Rocky, I don't really know. I don't like how he can vomit acid, but I suppose he is not as triggered as Lightning, although he does it far more. Plus, I can't really say I enjoy cleaning up his vomit almost every day. It would just essentially be like raising a child. He gets a 2 out of 5, because sometimes there's huge problems. He isn't terrible per se. So that's about a 3 out of 5 on characters, and I'm up, the families get a first good result in a while. Since Swords and Cloudy's room, I suppose, a 7 out of 10. Not bad, you two. Not bad at all. Coiny and Puffball. It's actually a rather unique room, and whilst I might have said this about so many of the rooms to the point of lost meaning, this time I think it actually fits. This is the first time that rather forcefully merging the two into one unifying room. It does the, I'd say, smarter thing of just dividing each side by 2. This means by naturally both characters are more vividly represented, which was a flaw I felt like playing someone of a dual bedroom. And whilst Coiny's side is good, but nothing really to write home about, Puffball's is actually kinda great. I especially love the hammock on the side. I fall for the room, waiter. And as for the characters, honestly, I'm just getting tired of reviewing them individually, especially since both of them are just simply chill, nice people to be around. Obviously, if we're doing bfdi, that's another story, but in TPOT, other than Coiny possibly being annoying at times, I think another 4 out of 5 would do the overall roommates. And 8 out of 10, our first truly great one since... I honestly don't know, is it Foldy? I mean, 7 out of 10 is not, it's a good score, but it's not a great score, and 8 out of 10 is a great score. Oh well. Teardrop. Despite her joining really sucking ass, the room itself is legitimately the best thing we have right now. Now, there is a massive handicap that this is probably the most limited we've seen of any room, so I'm going to give 1 leniency point. But the very microscopic view of the place, it's really good. I really love the shade of blue, man. And the taping of everything just gives this place a very charming, disorganized room of it. It's a bit benign honestly, really all we see is a Burgrax and a Pyre Adventure poster, so I have to give a 4 out of 5, but remember, the leniency point. Yes lads, Teardrop will be giving, actually no, she won't be the first, but she'll be getting a 5 out of 5 all the same. I know. Call me bonkers, it's been so long since I uploaded and I'm trying to get into prayer things, but forgive me here. And as for TDSL, she's also pretty damn good as well. Because she's mute or rather quiet, it's almost impossible to be annoying, and she seems like a very exciting person to be around, especially since she communicates with gestures. You know, sign language. Brilliant. But on the other hand, yeah, it would also be pretty annoying to play charades with, so I'd have to dock a point. 4 out of 5. I look up and we'll get a 9 out of 10. I wonder if we'll get a 10 out of 10 this video. Well, there's 6 more left, and there's only one way to find out. Nickel. This is probably the most divisive character I could think of, because he could either be a perfect 5 out of 5 or the worst roommate of them all. Look, if we're talking about new and cooler BFB Teapot Nickel, then he'd be an absolute steal. He's got the charming, dopey funness to him, but he does have a resemblance of common sense in his brain. He'd be the best mate, honestly. Seems like a sound guy to take to my local spoons. However, if it's bfdia Nickel, specifically post bfdia 13 Nickel, then I think I'll just take my one-way elevator built in my room. Alright, so you know what I've said about Fries about being a completely terrible roommate because he's very self-destructive. Apply this to Nickel, except everything is amplified by about 17. I am not staying in the same room as a guy that can not only become control of storms, devastate entire timelines, and all the while seems to pass off as others with ease. I cannot begin to fathom what horrible things he could be doing. That, and on top of being essentially completely indestructible and being as dumb as a bag of rocks, and you have yourself a nightmare situation with a roommate. Missed opportunity to say bag of rockies. Damn. And yet, outside of it, he remains my second favorite character of them all. But this is not about how well they are, how fun they are, whatever it is. It's about how good roommates they are. So, you know what? It doesn't feel right to give him a 5 or a 1. I'm going to create an upper bound Nickel, which is BFB Teapot Nickel, and I'm going to give it a 5. And I'm going to give a 1 out of 5 to what I call lower bound Nickel for BFDIA. Because I genuinely don't think anything is right. Oh yeah, his room's also kind of mid and the way disembodied voices or helps me give him a 2. Which means that Nickel gets a score of either 3 or a 7. I'm going to keep it a stack with you guys. I have not been paying attention to this video. I've created and manifesting to you for so long that I've completely lost track. To put it into perspective, I started creating the script on May the 13th. And as of putting Nickel, it is the 1st of July. This video has obviously been taken even longer than 1st of July. I fully believe that it'd be either the end of July or the start of August by the time this video goes live. All this to say, I'm really sorry about all this. You know, I have a lot of things to come to school and it's just me being a lazy asshole. I got really distracted. But you know what? I think it's my time to put this to bed once and for all. Clock, eraser, and pin. I'm putting them all 3 together because all 3 of them are basically interchangeable with each other. I can't think of anything interesting to say that I haven't already said for most of these single player rooms. I can't even bring myself to think of anything that's interesting or funny quirks of them. They're not bad, but they're not amazing either. Everyone, the characters are alright, and the rooms are just that. Alright. They all feel like reskins of each other. Which are all reskins of, I don't know, Pie's room all the way back in the first one. You guys remember Pie? I remember Pie. There's nothing really much to say about them. I'm going to give all of them a score of between a 4 and a 6. They could all interchange within each other, but if I had to give an assignment to each, Clark would be given a 4, Eraser would be given a 5, and Pin would be given a 6 out of 10. It's not, again, it's only if you had a gun to my head and forced me to rank them, they'd essentially be into it's anyone's game really. Aside from that, I could go on and on about how hard it is for all of us, but it's not the Object Show way. So let's go. There's only 2 more left to give it to. Pillow and Yellowface. Of the rooms that I've looked at, I think they may be the most unique. Can you shut up? Might be the most unique of the bunch. From the paint job that really isn't just a solid line to device room, to Pillow's bed being just a bed frame, which is actually really creative. I have to give kudos, despite not how much else to it. This is really good. But it's like one of those rooms I'd much rather look at it rather than live in it. Like, if I saw this walking and knocking about in IKEA, I'd be thinking, I'm really fascinated in this room, man. I would be studying it like no tomorrow. I had to bump into a 3 out of 5, and that's sort of fair. Now for the people. In a glance, Yellowface would be really annoying. It's just a walking, talking advertisement. But upon closer inspection, VAR if you will, He's not that bad. He's just a very loud individual when he's talking. But what the hell? So am I. I know this doesn't sound like it, but nah, I actually really am. It's kind of worrying. And I suppose she's very smart and is clearly driven by curiosity. It's a shame that worse than quality being a killer in Teapot. So I'd give it a 5 out of both. I'm feeling nice, so I'll give it a 3 out of 5 proportionally. I'll give a room a 6 out of 10. I don't remember if we had this. Which is kind of surprising, really. Oh yeah, we gave it to Pin. Yeah, I kind of forgot. Snowball and TV. The final suite that belongs to the residents of Snowball and TV. I just said that. On first impressions, it seems to be a really good way to go out on. The colour scheme of the room seems to fit in the pair perfectly, specifically with matching TV's mechanical appearance and Snowball's white, which to be fair isn't a difficult task when both characters are more or less shades rather than actual colours. But you know what, I digress. I also really like the fish and weights at here that clearly represent Snowball and his strength. Although again, it does suffer a problem with a lot of these. Only one character is really properly represented. I would like to see more TV other than a few pictures. We got this. It's a very solid room all the same though. So I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. Now so 2, they're fairly equally great. Snowball from yesteryear would have been fun to be around, but he seems to be far more reliable and certainly more fun to be around. And as for TB, poor guy's just treated like ass and doesn't seem like a good guy to be conversing with. And why not? We would need to buy a new television. In that regard. There's not really much negative either. Considering this is the last thing to look at, I think it'd be a bit symbolic to give him one last 10 out of 10, a 5 out of 5 proportionally, and a nice and happy 9 out of 10. And yeah, that's it. All 50, give or take 15 suites we've just taken a look at. Honestly, there is some that I'm probably not too sure if I'm ever going to look at. Like, how come Ice Cube didn't share Pin's room? Considering that both of them got eliminated at the same time, and Ice Cube being in the room with them. It's very weird, but yeah, I suppose we should leave it like that. I'm just going to spend maybe a bit more time to talk about what I'm going to do next time. Expect a video on the Bommet spin-off games. The Bommet video is still doing pretty well for itself, despite making a video a year ago, and to be fair, it was generally quite fun to be around. And then after TPOT 25, I maybe have a little surprise to you guys. We don't know, but yeah, thanks for watching, and have a good rest of your day. Good night.